Hello everyone, today's lesson is going to be on circles and in particular the area of a circle. Okay, so pause the video, write the naughty words down please, and yeah, press play when you're ready. Okay, so area of a circle, just quickly want to discuss the parts of a circle first. Okay, so should already know this hopefully, but there's a couple of things that we need to know in terms of a circle. All right, so we need to know the circumference. We need to know what the circumference of a circle is, not just how to work it out, but also what it is. Okay, so on a circle, the circumference is the distance all the way around the outside. Okay, so the distance around the outside of the circle is what we call the circumference. Okay, then another thing we need to know for a circle is the radius. Okay, so the radius is the distance that goes from the middle of the circle to one edge. Okay, so from the middle, from the center to one edge of the circle is called the radius, right? And then also another thing we need to know is the diameter. Okay, so the diameter of a circle, that is still from the center point, okay, but that is actually from one side all the way to the other, going through the center. All right, and an important point to remember is the radius is half the size of the diameter. Okay, so for example, if the diameter of a circle was 12 centimeters, then the radius would be 6 centimeters. Okay, because it's always half. All right, so example number 1, all right, we need to find the area of this circle with a radius of 4 centimeters. So I'm going to put that radius onto the diagram. All right, so press pause, copy the diagram and the examples. Copy this down basically. Okay, so the radius is 4 centimeters. So something we need to remember for this lesson, all right, is to do the area of a circle, it's always pi times by r squared, where r stands for the radius. Yeah, so pi times r squared. For this lesson, all right, instead of using the pi symbol in your calculators, because I'm not sure who's using a scientific calculator and who's using their phones, we're just going to do 3.14. Okay, so it's always going to be 3.14 times by the radius squared. Right, so for this question, we're going to do area equals, okay, pi times by the radius. All right, it tells you in the question anyway, but it also shows you in the diagram that I've added to. The radius is 4. Yeah, so it's pi times 4 squared, which in this case is 3.14 times by 4 squared. Okay, please make sure then when you're typing that answer into your calculator, you're not typing in 3.14 times by 8, because we should know the 4 squared is not 8, is it? Remember, squared means times by itself. All right, so it's actually 3.14 if you want to write it this way instead, times by 16, yeah, because 4 squared is 16. But if you type in 3.14 times 4 squared, you'll get the same answer anyway. All right, so if you type that into your calculator, then you should get 50.24, right? And that is in centimeters squared. Centimeters, because that's what's in the question, and it's squared, remember, because we're doing area. Okay, so that's an easy one, as long as you remember this formula at the top here, look. Okay, pi times by r squared, right? 3.14 times by the radius squared, and we were given the radius in that question. All right, so make sure we got that copied down. And then on to the next example. Okay, so press pause, copy this down, and then press play when you're ready to get going. So this time, find the area of the circle where the diameter is 20 millimeters. So adding that to the diagram, okay, 20 millimeters is the distance from one side to the other going through the middle. So we're still doing the area, which is still going to be pi times by r squared. Okay, pi we know is 3.14. But r squared, remember, is the radius. Yeah, we don't know the radius in this question. We know the diameter. Okay, it's in the diagram and it's clearly given to us in the question as well. Yeah, but remember what we discussed already, the diameter, okay, is twice the size of the radius. So in this question, if from one side of the circle all the way to the other side, going through the center, is 20. Then from one side to the middle must be half that amount, which is 10. Yeah, so 3.14 times by 10 squared. So you type that in your calculators. Remember, 10 squared is 10 times by 10, yeah? Should be 314, and then this time it's in millimeters, so it's millimeter squared. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward as long as you remember the formula, right? Pi times r squared. That's what you need to remember. And then from that point, just be careful as to whether you're given the radius in the question, okay, or whether you're given the diameter. So if you're given the radius, happy days, you use that number. If you're given the diameter instead, like we had to do in this example, make sure that you halve that number first, okay? That's the only real thing to watch out for. Okay, so I'm going to show you the main task now. So it's actually a worksheet that I've saved into Teams in the assignments. Okay, so if you go into the assignments, it'll be saved as like lesson 3 area of a circle worksheet. Okay, so pause the video, find that worksheet, have a go, and then when you're ready for the answers, obviously come back to the video and press play. All right. So the answers are here then for those exercises. All right, for exercise 2, if you've got onto it, slightly harder. All right, because some of them are only quarter circles, some of them are semicircles, some of them are 3/4. Okay, but you're clever enough to figure that out. If you're doing a semicircle, for example, do pi times r squared, but then just half your answer. If you're doing a quarter of a circle, pi times r squared, and then divide by 4, and then so on. Okay, so pause the video, mark your answers, press play when you're ready. So moving on then, last one for the checking question. Okay, so pause the video, all right, have a go at the checking question, both parts, and then come back when you're ready to go through the answers. Okay, so on this one, welcome back. We've got part A I'm going to do here, so the area, and then part B I'll do in a separate section. Okay, so the area of the semicircle. So we already know that the area is pi times r squared. Okay, that would be for a full circle. This is for a semicircle, which is half. All right, so don't overcomplicate it. It's going to be pi times r squared. Whatever answer you get to that, you divide it by 2. Okay, so if we put in the values that we know then, 3.14 for pi. Okay, the distance from one side of the circle to the other, so from here to here, look, the distance is 12, so the diameter is actually 12, which means the radius must be 6. Okay, so 3.14 times by 6 squared, and then that answer you divide by 2. Okay, so the area, if you type that into your calculator, 3.14 times by 6 squared, and then divided by 2, should be 56.52 centimeters squared. So that there is the answer to the area. Okay, perimeter then for section B is slightly harder. Okay, but we can still figure it out, no problem. I'm just going to change the color so you can see the difference then. Okay, so the perimeter, all right, is the distance all the way around the outside of the shape, isn't it? So this semicircle here, look, it's got 2 sides. It's got this flat side at the bottom here, look, this flat edge, and then it's got this curved section here. Okay, excuse my drawing, but it's got that curved section too. So all we've got to do is work out those two and add them together. Okay, the flat edge at the bottom is the diameter in there. So we already know that that flat edge is 12 centimeters. Okay, so we're going to do 12 centimeters plus whatever this curved edge is. Okay, so think back to the start of the video when we're discussing the different parts of a circle. The distance around the outside, remember, is the circumference. Okay, so to work out the circumference, we already know this from a previous lesson. Okay, circumference of a circle is always pi times by the diameter. All right, so if we do pi times diameter, that would give us the circumference of the whole circle. We only want the circumference of half the circle. Okay, so all we've got to do is pi times diameter and then half it. Okay, so pi we know is 3.14. Yeah, the diameter is 12. Then we're going to half it. Okay, so we keep the 12 centimeters that we started with. And if you do 3.14 times by 12, that gives you the whole circumference, but we only want half of it. So we divide that by 2. Okay, so 3.14 times 12 divided by 2 should be 18.84 centimeters. Okay, so then the final answer for the perimeter is adding those two numbers together in it. So 12 centimeters, which is the flat edge, plus the 18.84, which is the curved edge. Okay, should give you 30.84 centimeters. Okay, that there is the final answer to part B. And just take note of the units as well. Okay, the units in part A, centimeters squared, that's because we were doing area, but the units in part B are just centimeters, because remember, perimeter is just a distance, isn't it? It's just a distance around the outside of a shape, so the distance is just measured in centimeters. All right, so hope you find